I will try to express my views patiently, somewhat quietly. It's getting on towards my bedtime, which is much too early. And I've allowed early um, late evening fatigue to set in and govern me ever since the COVID lockdown. So pushing myself to stay alert and talk as a deaf man in isolation, not atomized, but quarantined, forcibly cut off from peers. Um, may do something to energize my spirit a little bit so that I spend my late evenings doing what I should be doing in the late evenings, which is instead of flopping around on my bed trying to fall asleep, um, maybe studying, reading a little. The antagonism that comes out towards me derives from Seattle and Pittsburgh's murderous, humiliating declaration that I'm not entitled to a personality of my own. That's not what I want to talk about, but I have to mention it because the established lines of address on the topic that I want to discuss are an occupied zone in the media and spirit world, and certainly in the community at large. When I look back before terrible tragedy befell me as a child, Dallas Cowboys were my favorite team, and when things started to go badly, I dreamed of running away to Arizona. How a person's personality can be changed so dramatically that went into hibernation. I couldn't even remember that it was true about myself. Is something very strange about the city of Pittsburgh. I've addressed in my copious writings the bizarre way I was humiliated as though because I was white, I was born genetically a racist, genetically schizophrenic too, even though they implanted a nerve agent. Even though I loved black people, I wanted and always wondered why they rejected me. I'll move on. What I want to address is something Greta Thunberg raises, which is she says that we live in an extraordinary time and we need to rise to the occasion. There have been challenges in the past where people have risen to the occasion. But I also caution you that the New Deal of FDR has since been dismantled. His friend Henry Wallace was rejected in part because of someone I like, H.L. Mencken, which was a tragedy for the United States. We've allowed things to discontinue that were the foundation of our society. Bullets stopped James Garfield, who was an anti-racist, in his inaugural address over 10 years before Plessy versus Ferguson. He set out and made clear that he set out with his presidency, which was cut short, to abolish racism and prevent segregation. Abraham Lincoln, had he lived, would have stopped child labor where it began. He would have stopped the robber barons before they had a chance to start. He founded Gallaudet University for the deaf and was taking the time to read Karl Marx. There's no chance our country would have become the deeply divided by economics class structure that we have had Abraham Lincoln and James Garfield been allowed to complete their lives. I'm not going to stop short of saying that JFK too was shot dead before he had a chance to fulfill his mission. All of these things have been perilous for us, but that doesn't make it any less true. What Greta Thunberg has said is certainly true. We need to rise to the occasion. I really am not much in a position because of the opposition to my personhood, a cruel and criminal enterprise from the cities of Pittsburgh and Seattle that they have settled on and declared a very personal and intimate war on me about. To engage in the polemics of politics. I'm deaf. People shudder at the thought of listening to me. But I do note that some of the things I've said in the past are now being called up not from me, which is wise, but for everybody. I took a stand for ecology in the 80s. I supported and remember what many people don't was that Jimmy Carter wanted a solar energy bank. So, what are my thoughts as somebody who was de-Christian, a naive idealist? That's an interesting point to look at, I think, because although some of the ideas may not be as tenable as I wish they were, they might not be as untenable as many people say. I used to think one of the things that we needed was a mass mega project across continental Africa to provide piping for sane freshwater circulations. We needed to look into methods of supplying and routing water as a preeminent study over the investment in the nuclear catastrophe and the military industrial complex. We needed to look genuinely, alarmingly, and investingly at circulation of clean water anywhere the people needed help because we too want clean water. Everybody is entitled to clean water. And we should be looking at how we can involve ourselves and initiate and fulfill mega projects of clean water. Now, many people shudder at the thought of mega projects. So I'm not myself necessarily gunning for a bunch of mega projects, but there's another one that interests me. I remember that when Hurricane Katrina flooded New Orleans, people headed into the stadium. What if there were stadium catacombs connected by light rail all over um, South America and Africa and Asia, where people were in danger and needed those kinds of safe harbors in um, climate passages so that they could survive. So you have this a few but important considerations for mega projects around the world that I think should be looked into. Now, obviously, that's not um, lunch programs, breakfast programs, elderly nursing home programs, the things that are community centered as a form of economic and ecological and community centered educational priorities in places like Latin America, where people need to learn the basics in their own language and choose which world languages they want to include in their educational processes. The learning to meet together quietly, calmly, productively, and enjoy one another's company can be as simple as playing ping pong together in the park. I learned that in Chinatown, a neighborhood where I was happier than I ever thought I could be under the circumstances which were my life. Well, echo schools, I believe, is one of the things that we need to summon a conversation about, just as we need to summon a conversation about mass transit, a conversation about limiting car use, about abandoning reckless, foolhardy car use in favor of getting around by public transit that's available and mass transit considerations that are possible. All of these things come down to improving the beauty of our cities. There's nothing that undercuts the admirable achievement of the engineering miracles that the modern city represent and allow us to enjoy than being unable to breathe the air. There are many things that we could be doing to improve the quality of life by learning about our environment, by learning about what makes us safe, what makes us healthy, what makes us thoughtful, what makes us thinking, aware, and considerate. Now, when it comes to the selfish desire to be able to understand and perform, there are people who are very thoughtful. They're thinking people. They don't always agree with each other, but they provide a medium to hear what other people think about what they have to say. Some of them are very important and popular. And I encourage people to look into Jordan Peterson, Alexander Dugin, Noam Chomsky, Vashad, Vijay Vashad, and the many other people who are online who are interesting people worth thinking about. It doesn't have to lead to conflict. If we put our minds together and give ourselves some breathing room, we can think things through together. Preservation of other cultures is extraordinarily important. One of the things that comes with it is some free time to learn about something that's worth learning about others, hearing from others, being non combative about the issues of the day, learning instead to think through what needs to be done and set yourself goals to achieve what needs to be done. There are things that need to be integrated into public schools that have to do with awareness of the proximal development of children. And we need to do something constructive, as Congress has done in recent days, to limit access to things that seem to be um, overly glamorized, like unnecessary and senseless weapons. And the PlayStation war mania that comes with um, so many people who joyride on their home computers with war games. Um, for me, none of that really is my precinct. Those ideas that I've always put forward because, well, I was a Dallas Cowboys fan. I wanted to live in Arizona. I wanted to run away to Arizona. Those are the kinds of places where the sun shines, where the light is very bright, where people are thoughtful, considerate. And it was a spirit of wanting to be alive, wanting to be energetic, and wanting to be helpful. And I don't think that that part of my character has ever left me, even when I was divided in two by the decision that I was not going to be allowed to be any sort of person that I would decide to make myself, but rather I was going to be turned into some kind of crummy Woodstock generation object lesson for the military industrial complex glee club that made a mockery of me. Well, there's not much to say about that. My precinct is none of those things. My precinct has to do with um, the history of semiotic control through the switchboard of Hollywood and news media that allowed the Axis to come in the back door of the United States of America. Don't subject yourself to the self injury of saying, oh, I'm one of those people who think that Kiev is Nazi and Russia is great for invading. I don't. I believe any of that. My views are well known and they evolve and they change. And like everyone else, I wish it would stop. But I know what really happened when it comes to the birth of Hollywood as part of the rise of the KKK with D.W. Griffith and how he went to Italy to meet with the futurist Italian fascist movement that emerged in the arts with the rise of their cinema and the theories that emerged from the futurist movement, which was fascist cubism. And I know that Sergei Eisenstein and D.W. Griffith had an uh, dialogue that was enlisted by some of the most important intellects to rise in the history of the human race. Albert Einstein wrote a special theory of relativity published it in about 1916, which is when these men and probably the women who were involved were also outstanding thinkers. The Harlem Renaissance, some of the great writers of the Harlem Renaissance were from this period. Richard Wright, Zora Neale Hurston were from this period. So if you look at the era when Ouspensky was working with the Cubists, Picasso, and Prokofiev, you begin to see what the futurists long arm of fascism managed to do with the help of D.W. Griffith and Reagan to crystallize this mega crunch that we call the military industrial complex, the Cold War machine. The people in the Russian military are not that much different from the people who I knew in Pittsburgh. I'm not condemning them or applauding them. They're just high school gym teachers, a lot of them. You know the type from if you're my age and grew up in the city in America. Noam Chomsky talks about the Pinochet regime being in the 80s in Chile, a Chicago neoliberalist statement. The money bags came down. Now, we've called the money bags many things. Robber barons, we've called them merchants of death. We've called them the military industrial alliance, the Illuminati. Jimmy Carter said we're a plutocracy, not a democracy. The word oligarchs got entered into the dialogue. But it's this leapfrog oligarchy that jumps around the nation states, behind the scenes, manipulating us through the camera field, the feature presentation of our imagined communities. This is the United States of America. This is Great Britain. This is the Russian Federation. And project what they want the dialogue to be engrossed with from behind the scenes in the projection booth as they leapfrog oligarch and the money bags from behind the scenes. That's one of the things we all need to learn to condition ourselves to review. Do I want to be drawn into the orbit of a celebrity who's succouring me? Do I want to be drawn into the worship of a money bag who is succouring me? I realize they played, oh, we're just human beings, we're just human beings. But when they get invisible and start throwing daggers from behind the curtain and making movies about it, that's called a snuff film. That's a Godfather paradox. They're human beings, but they're not acting like part of our commonwealth. We need to ask ourselves, do we really want to go that road? Okay, so we need to pull back a little bit from our worship of the money bags, our worship of the oligarchs. We need to question where the switcheroo on the personality of a person like me, deaf kid, who went to a public school, came from and what its purpose is. It's the oligarch machine manipulating the machine so deceitfully that they managed to evacuate, pretend, make it appear that something happened that didn't. And while real people were being killed. So we wept, we mourned, we believed that Reagan was shot. We wept, we mourned, we believed that Lenin was shot. But all of the evidence shows that the futurists and the oligarchs worked together to create a fourth dimensional facade to deceive us as an experiment because they felt like, why not? We have the power. It's on our desks. The idea is right here with Henry Houdini, right here with Errol Flynn, who lived in Laurel Canyon with Henry Houdini. And they eject the personality of the scapegoat. And Seattle and Pittsburgh says, we'll make him a money bag and see if he puts his money where his mouth is. It's absurd, indecent, irregular gangsterism. And don't ask me to subordinate my belief system to it. So I realize that they're crazy and they've killed people who I love. I loved Circe Kennedy. I didn't even know she existed, however. It's not my precinct to pry into people's lives. It's not my precinct to go saying I know how to manipulate and frighten this family of people. I don't do that kind of thing. I don't do blackmail. That's not my thing. But it is, of course, the Derby um, scene of classic Hollywood politicos, and they tagged onto me. So I, as far as I'm concerned, you can count on me if you give me a damage statement or injury statement to say he's going to take the money and run, because you have no business thinking I will have no right to do just that. And I'm not going to make any promises to anybody about anything. And I don't even, I mean, I don't want your goddamn postcard rubber trip. If you got a leaky chops drool or pick your nose and eat it. I don't want anything to do with it. You know, as for my conscience, I'll mind my conscience. You don't need to mind my conscience for me. And the bitter truth is that you pushed me into this declaration. You don't know what I would do. You have no clue what I would do. In all likelihood, I would move to a better joint, open my books, and say, what was I doing before? I was doing library generalizations. That's what Buckminster Fuller believed we needed to do, was become more generalists about things, have a more broad understanding as educators, and share what we understood with people who wanted to learn things and know things. I've always enjoyed having things explained to me. I've always suffered from being deaf. That's probably what I would do, but who knows what I would do? I might get calls from beautiful girls who want to show me their bosoms. I'll say, yeah, sure. You know, the point is that the orthodoxy did this to say that I was some sort of like object lesson in white greed or something like that, who thinks only of himself. And the whole time that they were saying this about me, I was trying to make friends. I was trying to share. I was doing volunteer work. I was thinking. I was challenging the system with ideas. I was trying to show people the folly of going headlong into the abyss the way that we are. And they just would turn up the heat and say, oh, no, he thinks he's great. He thinks he's wonderful. He's out for and they would leer at me, throw him. He's a ladies' man. He just wants people to be nice to him. He just wants to make out in the moonlight with somebody. What do they know? Did they ever try to get to know me? No. No, they had projection booth ideas about me. And that was much too important for them. And so they prove it's not true. I'm not going to try to prove it's not true, because you have no business doing it. You have no business rating my life, rating my environment, putting a counter personhood on my personal development. They tortured me as a child. I barely survived it. One of the reasons I did survive it, God helped me, was because I got into Muslim meditations. I started thinking about what they were saying in calligraphy, the beauty of this script that they use. What does this say about their fathom of nature and the gift of existence? Does that make me like a terrorist? Does that make me a terrorist? Does that make me a freak? What it did was it calmed me down, allowed me to sort of, the poison that they put into my body to sort of not get the upper hand over my psychological um, and neurological system. I mean, I got it to come out eventually. I didn't even know what it was. And they say, oh, that's the whole problem with Peter Gabriel's claims. Is when I sent him the short story Chasing an Echo, I showed him the Whisper campaign that was going on. I showed him that I was fighting with something I didn't understand. Well, they already knew all that. And they didn't want to help me. They just wanted to detonate it, and have their Jekyll and Hyde laugh. I'm not into it. I don't think it's smart thinking. I don't think people should be obsessed with it. I don't think people should say, I want to be the one who makes money off this pathetic story. I mean, that's the sort of thing I think people need to distance themselves from semi-consciously say, I don't want to come into this type of operation with my conscience out the door. What I want to do is walk into this situation knowingly and comprehendingly that another human being suffered a misfortune in his death and doesn't even have the imaginary money, the imaginary postcard would imaginarily make, because the imaginary Elon Musk may want it for his Mars museum. Okay, Pete, one peak. I don't have much. I don't have much any of this stuff. But I'm not going to try to wiggle out of your goddamn hostage taking syndicate, whoever the hell you may be, by making promissory notes to lewd ideas about money bags, which shortly will come your way, queer bait, because of the monstrosity that we all admit you were subjected to. Take it to the sweepstakes of Vince Irene and the people dialing for dollars. You know, the 666 lottery crowd and KDKA and Abdul the terrorist. I mean, Adam Eisenson, Trumpy too.